Hi. For those of you unfamiliar with my office, and I assume most of you are unfamiliar, even though all of you, every one of you, are more than welcome, encouraged actually, to come visit us at PS Audio. And many have. We get, I don't know, 3 to 4 visitors from all over the world every week. Somebody comes by and says, I want to see the place. And what's interesting to me is that most companies that I am familiar with are kind of closed off. Like, what do you want? I know there's one speaker company around the corner who locks their front door and only employees can come in. It's like it's a big top secret thing. I don't know. And other companies over here are very guarded. You've got, Miss Standoffish at the very front of the door. Don't you come in here. But what do you want? Anyway, we're not like that. We love having visitors. Come by and see. It's a factory. I mean, we have the big Infinity IRS 5s. You can come visit. We're in Boulder, Colorado. You would be welcomed without an invitation whatsoever. Anyway, this is sort of the side of my office. I have my big picture windows, and I can look out over at the barren trees. They have no leaves on it. And this is my 1963 split window Corvette Stingray. This, look at this. This model is, I think I paid like 50 or 60 bucks for this. Actually has a steering wheel that it actually turns. You can see it move the wheels. See, and it's pretty cool. I absolutely adore the lines of this car. I mean, the thing's a real POS, right? In its day, it was killer. I mean, it drives like a Chevy truck today. I mean, anyway, my cousin, Don Brown, oh yeah, see the hood opens? My cousin, Don Brown, was the first person in Southern California, according to him, that was able to get a Corvette Stingray. It was gold or a bronze, I think they called it. He told me it had a 427 engine, the only one that did, but others who know Corvette lore said, nah, they never made the 63 split window in a 427. But that was the fastest damn car I'd ever been in, and I always wanted one of those. And if I had all the money in the world and really cared more about cars than I actually do, because I really don't, there is a company in Lincoln, Nebraska that will make a body just like this, identical to this, and they'll place it onto a brand new Corvette Stingray so that you get the drive and the look of this car, but it doesn't drive like a tank, and you get power windows and all that kind of cool stuff. So if I had $250,000 hanging out that I just didn't want to have anything to do with, but I don't. Oh, and as long as we're rambling, these tapes that are so unceremoniously placed here, these are all my interviews when I was in radio in Germany with AFN for years. And so, like this top one is Uriah Heep. Here's an interview with Frank Zappa. Here's an interview with Cat Stevens, Humble Pie. Who's this? Daddy Longlegs, probably never heard of him. Let's see. Terry Sylvester of the Hollies. Anyway, tons and tons of guys. I interviewed literally hundreds of rock musicians way back when. Okay, Craig in Omaha, Nebraska. Paul, I've noticed a few audio component manufacturers place a lot of emphasis on their marketing of the idea that point-to-point wiring with quality internal cable is superior to a printed circuit board for audio. What's your point of view on this? Do you feel that point-to-point wiring offers an audible sonic advantage, or is it just marketing and hyperbole? What a great word. Well, Craig, no, I would tell you that point-to-point wiring in most cases with analog electronics is probably going to sound better than placed on a circuit board. But it's hard to do. It's expensive, prone to mistakes, and the difference between the two, gosh, I don't know how to quantify it. I assume I think all the times I've done it, it's definitely better. Now, in small electronics like digital audio, point-to-point is a joke. You don't want to do it. First off, there's way too many pins, and there, shortness matters a lot. So the smaller the components, the closer together you can get them, the better the transmission of those high-speed digital signals is. So that's real important. But in lazy old analog electronics, I think point-to-point probably is better, and I don't think that's actually hype. Now, let me show you what. So when I design a circuit, I'll start out with an idea on a sketch, and then I'll use one of these boards, which, sorry, all kinds of crap falling off here. So here's a capacitor, right? Here's a power supply capacitor. And this kind of push board, as you can see, allows me point-to-point wiring, sort of. It allows the actual leads to go into these holes, and here's a transistor, and it's sitting all by itself. And, emitter-based collector, right? So if I want to connect this to a resistor, I can just place this into, see if you can see that. I can just place this in here, poke it in, take a capacitor if I want, and poke that in, and within about 5 minutes, I can build an entire preamplifier on this board, which is very close to point-to-point wiring. And this breadboard or proto board is how I do it. And then I can put it on the meters, measure it, get it going. And then from that point, what I normally do is I then make a PC board, because we make thousands of products a year, and if there was some significant advantage to point, we would do it. And in some cases we do point-to-point between boards. We certainly do point-to-point wiring, but not on the circuit board itself. So here's what that looks like. So a circuit board basically is a piece of this material, which is FR4, which is fiberglass, and you can kind of see it's thin fiberglass. And on top of it, they laminate a layer of copper. And in this case, they laminate two layers, a layer on top and a layer on the bottom. And that's called a double-sided board. Then we photo etch, we imprint, you can you see those? Those are the actual traces, which what he's asking about would be the point-to-point wiring. In this case, it's copper-to-copper wiring. And then we etch it. We take away everything we don't want, leaving everything we do want, then drill holes through here, and then plate the holes so that they can go from one side to the other side. And I would tell you that I think probably a well-designed circuit board, if you have thick copper, and we use usually 2 to 4 thickness copper, and it depends on the circuit. If it's power, we'll use thicker copper. If it's not, we'll use thinner copper. And in general, this works extremely well. I'll bet you could probably get diminishing returns, but a little better with point-to-point wiring. Hope that answers your question. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.